In 2001, my family moved into this pretty white, custom-built house. And touring the finished basement for the first time with my mom, I was overcome by a smell that I couldn't place. It smelled like some forgotten dream that you never want to wake up from. It smelled like the air had ionized with magic. It smelled like hope. Mom, it smells so good down here. What is that smell? Tommy, it's carpet glue. Are you a glue sniffer? I was an earnest child, too buried in books to know that sniffing glue could get you high. The smell reminded me of a used bookstore where paperback glue carries stories through the air. This smell, though, was fresher. It was newer. It took me back to the first time I read one of the Narnia books. At reading and rereading these Narnia books, I believed that deep magic would summon me into some grand adventure. They gave me hope that I would be brave. And so, in the summer of 2001, I bravely stepped out into the world and became a man. Sure, most of the days were spent with the neighborhood kids running in and out of our basement, jumping in our above-ground pool, or riding bikes all day, sweating in the Illinois humidity, or at night, sneaking out and laying beneath the water tower, watching for shooting stars. But what sealed the deal on my manhood was my first date with Becky. Yeah. Oh, yeah, with Becky. Mm-hmm. And wanting to smell my best, I rummaged through the medicine cabinet at Grandma's house, looking for Grandpa Mac's Old Spice. Mm-hmm. He once told me I had to lather on the Old Spice if I wanted girls to go with me. Now I knew that I wanted girls to go with me, but I wasn't totally sure where. Or if that's what he meant. Maybe there was more to it. Maybe we were going to kiss. Becky and I rode our bikes down to the Chicken Dip. A diner so thick with the reek of hot dog grease you could lean on it. And using some change that I found in the basement couch, I ordered us 2 chili cheese dogs. We found seats beneath a framed yearbook page from 1936. And I nervously started blathering, "This yearbook is super old. I bet all these people are dead." Kind of sad if you think about it. Do you know any of the names? I think there's a street named after this guy. Are your grandparents alive? My Grandpa Mac is dead. Becky didn't say a word, couldn't say a word. That is, until an unchewed bite of chili cheese dog lodged in my throat. Thinking I was letting her get a word in, Becky said, "Both my grandparents are you okay? Help! Help! Somebody help him!" And I would have choked to death on that chili cheese dog if not for the swift intervention of Twid Wagner, who had owned the Chicken Dip since before yearbooks were invented. I did not die. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Becky and I finished our first date and decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend. We spent the rest of the summer swimming and riding our bikes. And one night, Becky watched stars under the water tower with me. I had no idea what to do. Put my arm around her. She leaned in and she asked, "Is that the Big Dipper?" Budding Don Juan that I was, I answered, "No." The days swimming and bike riding and the evenings stargazing all pooled together into some hazy memory. Summer lasted forever. And when August gave way to September and school started, the heat would not give. I was crowded with 30 other kids in first period sex ed class, sweating in the lingering summer heat as Mr. Bruin vigorously described our changing bodies. The reproductive system is nothing to laugh about. All the changes in your body are beautiful and normal. Any questions? Mr. Bruin immediately regretted asking. My hand shot straight up. Mr. Bruin saw it. Becky saw it. Everyone saw it. But Mr. Bruin did not call on me. Does anyone have any questions? I know he saw me. He looked me in the eyes, and we both knew I was about to make the funniest, most original joke that had ever been made. Anyone? And my desk nearly fell over from trying to get his attention. Fine, Tommy. This was the moment I had hoped for. This was my moment to be brave, to cement myself as the funniest kid in the 8th grade. But before I could say anything, a school administrator stepped in and beckoned to Mr. Bruin. Oh, thank God, Mr. Bruin muttered under his breath and walked over to the administrator. And then, returning to his desk, Mr. Bruin laid his head in his hands and said with little conviction, "When class ends, go straight to your next class. Today's lesson is finished. Talk amongst yourselves quietly until the bell rings." And he wiped his eyes. I whispered to the kid in front of me, I was gonna ask if a penis can be too big. The bell rang, and we shuffled out in relative silence. In the halls, teachers were hugging and crying. And I wandered around confused. Why were the adults acting like this? Walking with Becky to our next class, my cousin Zach came, stumbling down the hall crying, "We're under attack. We're under attack." And Zach had not made anything clearer. Who was under attack? He just kept stumbling down the hall. Still confused, I followed the stream of classmates to second period American history with Mr. Alfs. He had wheeled a television into his classroom and said, "It breaks my heart that today you'll witness history unfold." When we watched the footage live, stunned and terrified. Mr. Alfs was stoic and unmoved until a third hijacked plane was brought down, led by a brave passenger, rallying the others with a shout of "Let's roll." And we heard papers fall to the ground as Mr. Alfs caught himself from falling. He righted himself and apologized, tears in his eyes. With a voice trying not to cry, he excused himself. And we didn't see him again for 2 weeks. Days later, someone brought in the special edition Daily Herald, and we read that the best man from Mr. Alf's wedding was the same man who rallied the other passengers. Grief is strange. Everyone responds in unique and unexpected ways. For instance, Becky said that maybe we shouldn't be boyfriend and girlfriend after I leaned in for our first kiss while she was crying. And the grown-ups were not acting quite like I expected grown-ups to act. And all I wanted was just to get back to summer. So I picked up the Narnia books again, and I smelled the old copies, sniffing the pages for some comfort, because I didn't feel particularly brave. At the end of the 3rd book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, there's a scene where Aslan tells the 2 oldest children that they're too grown to return to Narnia, but to find magic in this world. Initially, that felt like an invitation to me. But this world had changed. And now there was only silence. Now I was too grown to return to childhood comforts. For weeks after, my aunt and grandmother sat in the dark, unable to do anything but watch cable news. My aunt had moved in to take care of Grandma after Grandpa Mac had died. The grief of losing him and now the terrorist attacks had consumed them. They didn't move from the front room. They didn't wash. They didn't eat. And now nobody was taking care of either of them. So my mom did, preparing dinner every night, despite her own mourning, and I delivered it. I would ride my bike through the empty streets with a casserole shifting precariously on my handlebars. Nobody was out. Normally you would hear flights from O'Hare International Airport, but in the first week following the attacks, all flights had been canceled. The world had grown silent. Skidding my bike to a stop at Grandma's front door, I'd let myself into the darkness, balancing the hot dish between hands. My grandma and aunt still had not moved from their seats. The TV glowed eerily on their faces. A week's worth of dinners were left rotting on the counter. Their despair smelled like spoiled tuna noodle casserole and unwashed spinsters. I cleaned up and dropped off another dinner. I was pretty sure that they wouldn't eat. And the first time that I heard a plane fly overhead again, I was out riding my bike. It was a Saturday morning. I had grown accustomed to the silence, so the plane's flight sounded like an explosion to me. Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy never had to live through this. They got to escape the air raids in London for the countryside and become royalty in a magic wardrobe. Me? I would have died, if not for throwing my bike to the ground and seeking cover beneath an old oak tree. I did not die. So I got back on my bike, and I rode for the rest of the day. It was beautiful. The sky was a shade of blue you can only find in a storybook. The plane had just been flying to wherever planes fly to. Things were returning to normal. And that evening, while delivering dinner, I found my aunt washing dishes and laughing. Hearing me enter, she said with a grin, "Tommy, do you remember when we were making fun of you and your cousin about puberty and girls and everything down there? God, it's so funny to watch you boys squirm." Squirm I did because she kept going. I teased you too, seeing what you knew about the reproductive system. And you said, I'll never forget, you said, "Shut up. I know everything there is about the respiratory system." We laughed and laughed and laughed, and still the sadness lingered. And that's okay. I've grown into my beautiful and normal body, and I realize now that the laughter, the tears, the sorrows, the joy, all of it, that's the magic. Thank you.
Give it up for Tommy Welty.